Hello, cosplay world! This is the third in a 6-part series in which we go over my Mercy build. Now, this is the corset section. I see a lot of cosplayers use a bodysuit and have it printed on the bodysuit, but I elected to integrate a corset style torso section to, well, support the wings and support the fins that are going to be later attached. I have seen a lot of Mercies that have done it where it's a bodysuit and they kind of don't have anything to attach all the wonderful bits of armor to. So I was like, aha, I have a solution to that. A corset's great for back support and spreading loads and things like that. That sounds like a good plan. So we have a duct tape dummy to work from, but here we got these designs from my wonderful client who came in for fittings. This was a much easier, much more, I guess, well-fitted cosplay because someone came in for fittings. I so much prefer when people come in for fittings for large jointed armor pieces. It just makes it so much easier. So here we have various types of vinyl. I chose them based on their thickness and their texture because there's a few different kinds of blacks and there's some blue in there, and I wanted to catch the light in the camera in particular ways, and I'm picky like that. So we're going to be cutting these into various sections based on that and then sewing them together. The hardest part is kind of in the back when we have this W shape, and making sure to sew and fold along those the pattern along those zigzags. It's not as simple as cutting them into aligned sections and then sewing them together. You're going to need to have the tips not as pointed. Damn, how do I describe it? The shape is changed when we have to deal with zigzags, basically, and adding the sewing allowance. And that was kind of the tricky part for me because all this is patterned by hand, so I had to do that like twice in order to get this nice smooth zigzag in the back here. You can see there's two different kinds of vinyl fabric. We also have some orange vinyl as well. It ended up not quite lining up when we added the armor, or it was hard to see, so it is there. It's part of the corset in the in piece, but it ended up being largely underneath the breastplate. So to show off that little streak of detail, we took a little rectangle of the vinyl and just glued it to the inside of the armor, so it would be in the correct spacing without having to be finicky about the corset. It tightens up in the front and all the details on the back, so it's kind of a reverse corset. It also attaches to the over the shoulder straps so that we have more support on the piece overall. During the entire process, I'm ironing all the seams to make sure that when we do put this on, it's nice and lined up. And we're going to take a lot of time in making sure that when we do put this on the client that it doesn't look all wobbly and uneven, which is something that is pretty easy to do. At least for me, this is like my second, I guess, no, that's not a corset. It's like my second actual corset, so I'm not super practicing it. But it turned out working out extremely well. I'm very happy with it. Now, the smaller sections need backing because even though we iron down those edges, they buckle very easily. So I'm going to glue down some stabilizer so that they don't bow out and they don't become round. I suppose I could have taken I don't know if I have a powerful enough iron to press them quite as well as they needed to be, like a professional iron to press them. But I ended up putting stabilizer on the inside to allow for that. The kind of medical symbol, the zigzagging snakes, is done with vinyl over some backing as well. We're going to simply, I believe, hot glue the backing onto this. It's not a structural detail, and I didn't want to put a ton of stitching into small details such as this because it'll end up kind of ripping up the vinyl, and it's super noticeable because it's a silverish vinyl. So even when I did stitch it on to the back of the corset, I tried to put those stitches in the center of the piece or on the corner edges where they would be less noticeable. And I did a lot of the stitching of the silver centerpiece by hand because, well, the vinyl is very thick and my machine would give me a heart attack if I tried to do it, and it was just generally a pain in the butt. So doing it by hand was kind of the only way to add that center sort of interlocking spiral piece. It will be overlaid with a bit of EVA foam for that spinal kind of armor detail that goes in the middle, but that's going to be after we add the wings to the piece because we need to hide the stitching where we attach the wings, basically. So you can see that that zigzag is actually layered over itself, and we stitch it down the middle. We're going to go down the sides and pin those in place once we're sure that the spacing's correct here. Yay! And then, yeah, you can see the backing. The piece is going to be double. This is not going to be. We're going to add finishing. We're going to add an inside layer. It's just going to be one big kind of sheet. There's no need to add all these extra details. It would just be more of a pain in the ass, basically. So I just make sure that the piece we sew it to matches it, and we get that work done. So yeah, you can see here that I'm also making sure that they're spaced on the back correctly. One issue you run into with the spacing on this is that the human body isn't the same shape as a cartoon character, so getting the hexagon shapes to look right while being on a torso that's not nearly as thin and elongated was a little bit of a chore, but I made it work. And then the top of the detail extends up underneath the fins there. Here we have the eyelets that you typically see on your corset. I have a wonderful little press here which allows me to stamp out the holes, and then I switch up the heads on the stamping machine, and it'll then press the eyelets into place, making for nice clean receptacles for me to put the lacing in. And it was just a regular old lacing that was how it's used. So this is going to be kind of the first piece we put on. We're going to put the wings and the corset on, and then we're going to add the armor and the fins afterwards. After we make sure that the straps are in place, the buckles are in place. There's quite a lot of actual layering to this because of the parts that we have. Oh yes, also last video we talked about the tabard. We're going to sew the tabard in to the bottom of the corset. It's all one piece. This took me, I think, 2 tries because it was a little bit off center, and I didn't like the point at the center of the tabard wasn't exactly as pointy as I'd like, so I went back and I sewed it a little bit deeper so that it looked a little nicer. This also keeps the tail of the corset from rolling up. A lot of times if you have a corset, it'll roll up on your butt because your butt sticks out. And this transitions it nicely and smoothly because it attaches a tabard and that lays to the ground. Yay! So here's our overall piece. I think I'm gonna iron out the black section at the top there a bit more once we have tested it and make sure it works. But that's basically it. What is this? Oh yeah, that's in order to attach the what is it? The EVA foam on the top. I strung in some lace that you can then attach hot glue to, because if I tried to stitch the EVA foam, the stitching would rip through the EVA foam. If I tried to hot glue, the hot glue would rip right off of the vinyl. It would not stick to the vinyl, so the median is to run a lace through it, and that'll allow for the surface to take the hot glue, and it'll have a nice clean finish. Alright, next time around we're going to talk about those wings I've been ranting on about. I hope you guys check that out. Good times to all. Go check out finalcosplaycore.com for more on this and other awesome cosplay goodness. Links in the description. Hope you guys enjoy. Good times to all.